Throughout the world and the universe, there's always a catch. Everything comes at a cost. Of course, paying for rent, food, and your Final Fantasy XIV subscription all cost money, but so do most other things. For others though, there's an external cost that isn't always cash. For example, if you don't show up to class, the cost is your grades. Cleaning your room, the cost is gonna be time. And if it's Asmongold's room, the cost is also probably your physical health. Speaking of physical health, if you're flying somewhere, you can catch physical illness. And if you're playing gacha games, you can catch mental illness. And if you're skipping Rappa, you can catch these hands.
I'm not a rapper.
Rappa is the newest imaginary erudition character and the only imaginary erudition character. But unlike her path implies, she's actually better in other game modes than pure fiction, which is strange considering that her element is fiction. If you pulled for Rappa, today I'm gonna be going over everything you need to know about what she does and how to build her. My name is Braxophone, but you can call me Brax, and let's talk about Rappa. As you're watching this video, I want to let you know that this video is very special. Usually I make these videos with everyone in mind, but this time I want to specifically make sure that all 13 players pulling for Rappa have a good time. After all, I get it. I also watched too much Naruto as a kid, and so did she. But first, you're probably gonna want to know what she actually does. To put it simply, Rappa is Firefly without the labels and emotional attachments. Essentially, she's your situationship. But while Firefly breaks your heart, Yaifriko breaks the laws of gravity. Rappa's skill hits 5 targets and does incredibly mediocre damage. But luckily, her basic attack does less mediocre damage. At least when she's ulting, just to be clear. Wow, would you look at that? We're already halfway through her kit. Her ultimate puts her into what I call Splatoon mode. It enhances her basic attack, gives her an extra turn like Zila's resurgence window, and gives her a break effect bonus and 50% weakness break efficiency. Whenever it's her turn to attack, she gets 3 basic attacks. It'll be 2 blast for 10 toughness each, and 1 5 target AoE for 5 toughness. And that's before all the extra toughness break and multipliers. She gets 3 whole uses of her enhanced basic sequence as well, and the whole time she's gaining energy, so oftentimes you'll actually get almost 100% uptime on Splatoon mode. With her trace, Ninjutsu Inscription C Echo, she also gets automatic super break scaling for 60% super break damage. Nice. And all of this so far is without talking about her talent. By talent I mean midriff, but Hoyo already bonked me for that, so I can't go into detail. Her talent gives her a stack system called Charge, and essentially for every enemy that gets weakness broken, you gain 1. And for every 1 you have up to 10, you get 50% more break damage multiplier on your final hit of your enhanced basic attack combo. She also ignores weakness type with her 3rd hit, and the amount of toughness broken is affected by her charge stacks. You already know what I'm gonna say about Silverwolf, but in case you didn't, I'm actually gonna gatekeep that joke from you. That might be a little confusing, so the TLDR of her talent is that with her 3rd basic attack, she does base break damage, and the more enemies that your team has broken, the more toughness it breaks, and the more damage it does. But against enemies that aren't imaginary weak, it does 50% of the original toughness break. Dude, even the TLDR is too long. Sasuke's wife also has 2 major traces that give her extra charge from defeating bosses at elites, and also one that increases break damage based on her attack. Rappa only needs to get to about 3200 attack to cap this out, which is actually super easy to do with her build. That would have been a really good segue actually, but unfortunately I have the writing skills of a Honkai Star Rail player. Lastly, when you use her technique, you find out just how late she was to the summer patch. Surf's up, dude! Wicked! Rappa's super break potential is incredibly high, and she works with every team that Firefly does. Her biggest downsides are that 1, as of this video, we only have 1 super break enabling unit, and 2, sometimes in pure fiction, her breaks don't actually do enough damage to one-shot enemies. But what's funny is that as an erudition, she's actually really good at Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow. So yeah, imagine that. She breaks enemy toughness regardless of element and generates 10 energy, which is why Silverwolf was found dead in a ditch while I'm bad at gatekeeping. Now, as far as trace priority goes, make sure to upgrade her talent, her ultimate, and then her skill or her basic, but you can honestly do those 2 at the same time. For her build, I'm actually gonna go over light cones first because it affects her relics, but also because I'm tired of reusing the same video format. One of the best things about Rappa is that she's very accessible to free-to-play players. She's not insanely broken or anything, but she's strong enough to clear all of the content, with Memory of Chaos being done in 1 or 0 cycles on a free-to-play light cone setup. It is time for my 100th Final Fantasy XIV joke. Rappa is like Pictomancer, balanced. You can always go for her signature light cone, which gives break effect and action forward, but nobody has the money for that right now because we all bought Metaphor ReFantagio. Hello, this is a pause to remind you to subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel. I can wait for you to click the button, it's fine. Thanks. What I recommend is running either Eternal Calculus, since it's completely free in the Herta shop, or After the Charmony Fall, which honestly could be renamed to Charmony Winter and it'd fit the UI better. Eternal Calculus is a free-to-play erudition light cone that gives attack buffs to the wearer, which can help Rappa max out that break damage taken by enemies. But it also gives a speed buff, which is what can really help Rappa excel in different content. After the Charmony Fall is essentially the same thing as Eternal Calculus, except instead of an attack buff, you get break effect bonus. With even a single one of these light cones, you'll be graffitiing your way to victory. After all, it's called a paint can, not a paint can't. Any other light cones don't really make a big difference on her. You just want break effect and speed mostly, and attack is a good stat on her too if you're not already at 3200. It's like Boot Hill. If you give him a 3-star light cone, he still splits planets like Welt. Anyways, I need to stall for ad revenue, so check this out. We've been so blessed to have so many relic sets work on break characters, and to not have to roll good substats to make the characters work. But that isn't gonna change the fact that you won't roll speed or break effect either. At times like these, I think back to the wise words of a scholar. The world's not sad, the world's funny, I'm a sociopath. The best relics for Rappa are the leftover ones you have from the past 6 patches. These include things like 4-piece Iron Cavalry, 4-piece Thief of Shooting Meteor, and even 2-piece Watchmaker. Any combination of 2-piece break sets will be good, and if you need it, you can use 2 pieces of a speed set as well, or mix 2 speed sets. As for the planar sets though, you want whatever will give you either break effect, speed, or both. I recommend Talia or Kopagni Lantern. Now for your main stats, you're gonna want an attack percent body, speed boots, an attack percent orb, and a break effect rope. Running double attack main stats will help you get her to 3200 attack, and the speed boots are necessary to give her tons of opportunities to break and use ultimate more frequently. The substats though are where things get a little bit tricky. Look, it's not hard to get the right substats, but if you really want to optimize Rappa and start going for 1-0 cycle clears, you want her to be faster than Sonic on Speed Highway. It also depends on your light cone, but typically in MOC, you want her to be super fast. If you have her signature or Charmony at S1, you want to have at least 167 speed after buffs are accounted for. With Charmony at S5, you only need 161, and with Eternal Calculus, you can go for 158 after buffs. For Apocalyptic Shadow or Pure Fiction, you want to aim for, actually I don't really want to read all this out loud. This is just something to aim for if you want specific numbers, since these will get you insanely good results with the right build. But with that said, I do recognize that asking for this much speed is a big ask. You don't need crit stats, so it's gonna be a little bit easier with Rappa than other characters, but it's still pretty high. You definitely don't have to make Rappa this fast to make her good, but it does help her damage significantly in those game modes. Worst case scenario, just make her as fast as you can. With all that said, here's the build summary, and hopefully she's easy for you to reach high speeds and break effect on. Rappa, I barely know. I barely know her. All right, you guys know the drill. I'm gonna be going over Rappa's best teams. There's a grand total of probably like 1. All right, here we go. So this is the premier Rappa team with Ruan Mei, Harmony Trailblazer, and a Fire Abundance, one of 2 Fire Abundance characters. This is just a super break team. It's meant to give you a lot of break efficiency with Ruan Mei, which Rappa already gets a bonus to break efficiency and can break more toughness with her final hits. The Trailblazer allows for super break to actually happen, and Rappa already does have super break in her kit, but this just gives her a lot more. And then of course, if you play Linkshot or if you play Gallagher, like literally either one of these 2 characters is fine, you're gonna be able to break enemy weakness for a lot of break damage, especially because Linkshot and Gallagher also are meant to be break supports and they dish out a ton of damage on their own. Harmony Trailblazer can also be a break damage dealer, so realistically this entire team is setting you up for a lot of success. Now if the enemy is imaginary weak, you do also have the option of running someone like Aventurine, and that's totally fine. If you did that, I would go ahead and put Aventurine between some of these characters. If you have a 3-turn rotation with Ruan Mei, then you don't care about feeding her energy through hits, so you could put Aventurine where Trailblazer is, and vice versa. But really, any sustain works here. Aventurine or Linkshot are all gonna be valid options for you. Now, I will say the Linkshot team ends up being the best for Pure Fiction that I could find, just because Linkshot is basically an erudition character. But between all of the break effect buffs you're getting, between the break efficiency, the super break enabling, Rappa ends up just being an absolute terror to the enemy. At the moment, it kind of feels like you need a Harmony Trailblazer if you really want to pop off, if you like really want to get maximized damage from my Ruby here, but you technically can replace Ruan Mei with Bronya. The downside is that because of the attack buff that Rappa wants to actually increase the amount of break damage she deals to enemies, or the amount that they take technically, it's not like you want to really substitute speed boots out and then just have Bronya move you forward. That doesn't really do as much. This is just so she gets extra turn opportunities, but you would still build her with speed. If you could get a super fast Bronya, then you can do some cool shenanigans, but typically that's just not what you need. But this team does end up being a little bit more free-to-play accessible, specifically because you might not have Ruan Mei, and this kind of fixes that. But any characters that come out in the future that are really good with super break teams, like maybe if they release one next patch or something, they will also probably slot in for Harmony Trailblazer or Ruan Mei. It just kind of depends. So the upsides of Rappa is that she's like super free-to-play friendly, but the downside is that she doesn't have a ton of team options. Don't get me wrong, she's still gonna do a lot of damage even with just Harmony Trailblazer, but you really want Ruan Mei to max that out, and Linkshot can help a little bit, but Linkshot is probably the most replaceable character in this team. It's basically all the teams that I have for you for a lady. I'm sure Silverwolf and Rappa have their grievances, since one character's gimmick became another one's default. But they do share one thing in common: vandalism. Unrelated, let's talk about vandalizing your wallet. Rappa's E1 gives her enhanced basic attacks, a defense ignore, and also gives her 20 energy back after ulting, making it a total of 25 energy refund instead of just the 5. This essentially gives you 99.9% uptime on her ultimate, with the exception being when there's no smaller enemies to break. E2 is an increased toughness reduction of her first 2 hits on her enhanced basic attack, but only to the main target. It's not as valuable as E1, but it's definitely still helpful, especially against bosses and with Ruan Mei on the team. E3 is a skill and talent level up, and E4 reminds your entire team that they have free will. She bumps everyone's speed by 12% when she's in her ult, which also affects her own. E5 is an ultimate and basic attack level up, and E6 is an instant gain of 5 charge points when entering battle. But after you launch your 3rd enhanced basic attack of the combo, you instantly get 5 more charge, meaning that you only have to break enemies 5 times to get the whole 500% break bonus. It's crazy, but are you actually getting this? Pinnacle Yai says,
in your dreams.
Of all the things you could get for Rappa, I'd recommend E1 if you plan on spending. Her free-to-play accessible light cones are really good as is, and you can easily zero cycle current MOC without her signature. But with that said though, you don't really need Eidolons for her, so I'd only recommend pulling for them if she's just a character that you really like the design of. I think my Ruby fans will be pulling. Otherwise, I'd keep her at E0 so you can save some pulls for the newer upcoming units. Please subscribe. No, like genuinely, please subscribe, I'm begging.